and being not understood by people around and being mocked at. These are the few things that at any age it really really brings you down, but especially
Mm,
at your formative age it really
mm,
impacts you.
mm.
But I think you definitely have picked up other things in life, because I remember like our first interaction, you was at one of the events and you were so kind, you were so understanding, and you were so helpful. So
Mm.
coming from the experiences that you had, you definitely gave someone else who was new to the place a very welcoming and warm
Yeah.
experience. So
Yeah.
I really like, this is something I like to bring forward to our listeners, that you might be you might have come across very challenging, and at the times that you felt the brunt of things, but at times when you have that power, you are in the position of maybe helping someone, and if you do help someone, you actually are doing not good to the other person but also to yourself.
Oh, for
Because
sure.
I think, Michelle, I'd
Yeah.
really like to applaud you for that in that particular situation. But I
Yeah.
like to kind of also dig deep a little bit over here, because you've touched upon something very important, and that's what we like to discuss, on my first step ever, what really goes behind a person in making. And I think you have done that beautifully. So once you mentioned that once you were in Sydney, you liked the city vibe,
Mm, mm,
and then you had that breakdown. What was
mm.
that point? If you're happy sharing us whatever that, what led to that, and what did you learn
Oh.
in that time?
Um, what was it physically was my entire right side of my face going numb with pins and needles while I was sitting in a hotel in Cairns by myself at 21, thinking I was having a stroke. And honestly, I was sitting there going, if I died right now, when would they find my body and who would know where to look for me? And like, because I was literally by myself. I was up there on a show. I was up there to do, I think I was up there for auditions for, for a show, and I was up there by myself. So it was a bit of a whew moment. Did that, was that the point that made me want to go home? Actually, no. Funnily enough, that wasn't why I quit. That was probably just more a case of like, something's not right here. You might need to
Yeah.
slow down. I think I don't know. It was an interesting point in my life. I was young. I had a boyfriend. We were living like long distance relationship. He wasn't trying. Like I wanted to go home to be with him. But what was interesting about that though was that I was done. I felt like I had achieved so much in 12 months. Like you were sort of saying, like 250 events, national events for David Jones. We did the entire Christmas pageantry nationally for David Jones this one particular year. There was a massive national show. I had 5 casts running simultaneous production rehearsals. I actually did that entire job in 2.5 weeks. It was a nightmare. I
Wow.
can't believe we pulled it off. Very successful. No one knew that we did it in 2.5 weeks. The client didn't even know we did it in 2.5 weeks because we'd had the contract for 6 months. And so, that had happened. That was Christmas. Not long after that, I don't even know when the Digimon premiere was, but I had worked for Nintendo and I'd done all those things. And then Fox Studios had headhunted me. And I felt that was, at 21, to be headhunted by Fox Studios was like,
That's
that
amazing.
was pretty cool. So I don't know. I kind of felt like I ticked a lot of boxes, and I was missing real connections, working stupid hours as events really are, and just having that space to have downtime. I think if I'd stayed longer, I would have found it, because towards the end of my journey in Sydney, I had found it, but I was still just hung up on getting home and saving my relationship. And what was interesting about that, though, was it was a double-edged sword. I thought I'd get back to Adelaide and get an events job, like no problems at all. Like I had just done all this stuff, everyone's impressed by that resume. And I got back to Adelaide and went for jobs at hotels to run events and weddings and stuff, and literally had people telling me I was lying on my resume, sort of saying to me, like, there's no way you've done this. And I'm like, you're welcome to check my references.
Wow.
And then I had other hotels saying to me, yes, but have you ever waited tables before? Or have you ever like made coffees? Or have you ever done hospitality? And I was just like,
Wow.
no,
Okay.
what's that got to do with organizing an event and a wedding? And so I couldn't crack into the Adelaide event market still, even then. And so that was a huge blow to the ego and your skill set and stuff. And that was the other thing. Like, I always, in Adelaide, I was kind of always someone else's person. Like, my mum was very well known in certain circles. My boyfriend was very well known in certain circles. And so I was always like a part of them. I was never like myself. And I think that's the other thing with Sydney. I was my own person because I was creating my own identity over there. And coming back to Adelaide, I started to lose that again. But what it gave me was an opportunity to temp. And I temped in like about 12 different industries at that point. And I temped in renewable energy. It was one of my favorite ones I temped at. It was a windmill company. That was so interesting and so exciting to work
Wow,
for
that's
them.
different.
It was so different. And I worked in like all these different industries and just doing reception work, but in all these different industries. And I just learnt so much. And, you learn different systems. And this is how this is really where all this began, was by exposing myself to different industries and different systems. It kind of gave me that passion for opportunity and adaptability and agility, and ended up working in the wine industry for 4 years here in Adelaide and absolutely loving it. Learned everything about wine. When I started, hadn't drunk wine ever. I wasn't really into wine. I was still in my young 20s, so it was still a little bit of an old person's drink at that time. And by the time I finished, though, I was well and truly into wine. And but and I think that's what I left Adelaide with. I left Adelaide at that time, like I was desperate to get out of here because I wasn't being fulfilled and I wasn't being valued where I was working at all.
Yeah.
At all. And so I met my husband and he was a pilot, and I was like, right, let's go. Where are we off to? Like, just get me out of here. And he was living up in Kununurra. Do you know where Kununurra is? Like,
No, not really.
so Darwin and then 7 hours west. That's how
Wow.
remote. I was so desperate to get out of Adelaide. I wanted to live there. Like, I was just like, I'm done. I'm over it. Get me out of here. I will figure something else out. And that didn't happen. He actually got a job in Adelaide. So we ended up being here for another 12 months. And I quit the wine job and I ended up, well, funny enough, it was so stupid. They replaced me with someone internally and I actually temped in her job until they found her replacement for like a hot minute. It was so funny. I know. I was like, you know what, guys, I'm so out of here. This is toxic. I'm out of here. I actually ended up working in a call center for a little while. Loved it.
Okay.
Best job ever. And got like all these reviews. Oh, Michelle's so helpful, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, and then we moved to Townsville. And that was the start of my events journey. Since then, I haven't stopped doing weddings and events since 2006.